All of spirituality involves a warmth and embrace of your heart and soul that you cherish and you're involved with 24 hours a day. It's not about going to church on Sunday morning, and if you go there, that's wonderful. It's about God, an endless, beauteous presence that fills the air both nighttime and day. You know, when you look at the full moon at night, it doesn't matter what you believe or not, but it makes you dream. There's something out there more pure than a sun shower. Just wonderful. You know it when we fall in love, when we touch a lover's arm, we hear a newborn baby cry. There's something so wonderful about life. And there are millions of people in this world who are involved in that sentiment 24 hours a day. It never escapes their consciousness. And they've always called everything that's not that the material world, and it's a shame, and it's a spiritual crime. I just want to make something very clear before we move on, that for those involved with this deep spiritual illumination, whatever we want to call it, mysticism, it's a love for God, with God, that there's an endless universe. I'm saying this is one of millions of spiritual people that transcends thought or emotion or even knowing. My buddy talked about his cat Alvin this morning waking up in his face, and then he sees that all the other, it's like that's God. It was such a perfect love or kindness that nothing else could touch it. And when you walk into this experience called illumination, enlightenment, nirvana, the beatific vision, the vision of God, when you're there, you'll understand what I'm saying. You're going to experience endless realms of spirituality, spiritual presence, divinity, and you are at one with it. These words are, it's when you're with a child, there's nothing else, right? It's that, and it never ends. The child's not going to grow up and you're going to have to separate it. It becomes a little greater. It becomes infinitely greater all the time, if you can imagine that. And that's the realm of real spirituality. And the point being said is that this world system and its consciousness that seems so real to us, the iron, the steel, everything with it, it has no power, no relevance, no reality. I want to make it very clear that God did not create the world and then you have Adam and Eve, and it's the whole thing's a mistake. And if you read the scripture or any spiritual writing if you read it right, even God seeks his own. There is a preciousness and a beauty to all consciousness that is spiritual, and God did not create this. It had to be somewhere in the endless infinity of eternity, one grain of sand that somehow found formation, and that's this world. I want to make it very clear so you don't have the questions about why did God do this. It's like, as soon as you understand that, all the fears, all the lusts of the world, and all the wants and the needs and the deeply held concerns are gone. You walk right through them. Now, communicating this to others is what we'll discuss today. Because the spiritual don't need to know anything, to be anything, to go anywhere, to study anything. The only problem with being spiritual is you maintain a humility within yourself. It's so kind and pure and wonderful. You would never assail anyone else's fine senses. Even when someone is wrong about something, you're always waiting to give this gift of divine understanding, wisdom, healing, 24 hours a day. It's always within you. But you can't beat people and do it. They have to be open to it for a moment, and then you can let in this much, that much. Just a little ray of light, or the sun itself. So all of us that are spiritual, in the privacy of my home all my life, I see people or wherever I meet them, whatever, that are spiritual, and I get to download the whole thing. Isn't that wonderful? And the reason I don't all the time, you don't, all the spiritual people don't, is we're contrite, we're humble. We're going to allow people to be whatever they are because our spiritual body decries that we don't force change anything, because that's what a spiritual person is. We're open to infinity. We're never going to invade anyone else's reality. But this is a hell, and at a point we'll have to do that. And we'll come to that today, but the point is that if you're very quiet and you understand that God did not create it, there's no confusion, that all the dark forces that own this world that are just, if you're spiritual, to me, it's idiotic. It's so foolish to believe a lie. A lie means the subtle seeming fact that the world exists and all the subdivisions of that. Everyone is who they appear to be to whatever degree, and everyone has sub-personalities behind them, or the spiritual have the great angels or teachers we talk about behind them, but they're not going to walk around with a great white cape. It's very subtle. We have to quiet ourselves, because the spiritual ones walk amidst us, amongst us, very quietly. And they're very, very, very hidden. And they're very kind and decent and healing and helpful. And seek one out. And if you are one, stand firm. We call it God, Heavenly Father, Mother Mary, whatever. All these things are, I talk about your mom and all these classes because it's like that touches it's an in-love relationship with God. But it's so delicate and so pure that a relationship you'd have with your mom or your child would be, it's that kind of love. Because they talk about a cosmic ocean of light and all, and it is that, but it's a love relationship, an in-love relationship, without any of the thoughts of this world. There's no trauma in it, there's no disturbance at all. It just is. Because we just are. Because there's nothing wrong with us. Because there's everything right with us. We're made of a spiritual steel that those in the world cannot see, do not desire to see. And if you really know that and hold firm your voice, your knowing, your power. There's no power in the world stronger than the human spirit, the soul. Soul is eternal. And in this process of spiritual enlightenment, coming to that place in your life where it's over for the world, you're just not here anymore, well, then all that makes sense. And some people will see it and know you by the cleanliness of your hand and the kindness of your heart. But you yourself are often very hidden. When I'm around a bunch of men or whatever, I'll be a tough guy with them, but it's just, I'm nobody, but I'll be whatever, I'll melt into any crowd whatsoever, and I've done it all over the world in every kind of circumstance. And somehow you get put through that because the reason you're here is to teach, is to express this. That's for all of us. We're meant not just to be healers or teachers, but actually direct instruments of the Almighty. This softly lit presence is coming off of us every moment of every day. It never stops. And everything in the world seeks to maintain a stand against you, and it gets very, very subtle. Like clockwork, and in the beginning you're going to enjoy it. The first few months of spirituality, when you remember, you might be enlightened, but all of a sudden you realize, oh my God, the world, you thought you're going to be here and you teach people, or they would feel it from you, and the world things would turn out right, but there could come a point in your life where you see, oh my, the world doesn't want this, there's something behind the whole thing that's horrible, and you get hit with very strange circumstances. And that's the beginning of your enlightenment experience. And then you'll have this cosmic ocean of light visit you. You will have this cosmic ocean of light visit you. And then you'll know everything. And in that millisecond, you will know your future. 1968 or 9, when April 11th, remember, I knew every second that's happening now. And we go through the bad stuff even though we're good, because we're here to teach and to heal it. So it's horrible. You have not had a more horrible life than me. I'm not going to go into whatever. It doesn't mean anything. But it's just to remind you. And you have to be able to understand that all of it is the dark side. And we're spiritual instruments and teachers and healers and friends of everyone. And the thing is, I've always had the gift of healing, so I've been able to touch whatever. Even my uncle, who's from the army, whatever, when I was 6 years old, touching his shoulder, but it was like, yes, I could do that, but that's not what's going to help or improve someone's psyche, because people have to be taught all the different ways that they're being tempted in their life. Because if you just give someone all the presence and power, then they'll run off, or you have to find a way to be the teacher, which is why we went through it, why I mentioned my traumas in this life, because I understand anyone else, so if I'm talking to them, I can have a complete empathy and allow them to know in an experiential way that they're going to walk through this and what it is, and that it has nothing to do with them. No force in this world, no devil, nothing has any power over you. You, on the other hand, have many gifts and powers that are spiritual in nature, that are wonderful, that are kind, that are beautiful, that are decent, and first of all, human. Hi, Mom. It's just, and it's forever. One of my teachers wonders why I don't want to visit my family here. They're here with me. Does that make sense? And the biggest reason in my heart, because you always need another reason, because the world slams you every day. No one ever listens to anyone. So the reason I'm really doing this, and I'm locked in, I live completely alone. I'll be around people an hour or two in the evening at my friend's restaurant or here, or certainly at the gym with Master G and Rob, his gym here, and all the angels here. And we teach dozens and dozens of children here jumping, and the parents sitting here and crying, because Greg Escolta here, the master teacher of martial arts, has been a world champion many, many, many years, but he's taught many, many, many world champions, national champions, martial arts. And my teacher, Pedro Mink, he's world and national champion now. The last 10 years he's been. And he came here from Brazil a few years ago, and it's all, you just watch the parents crying, because it's like they can discipline kids that I guess you're not allowed to anymore in America, but, and in a joyous, happy, it's spiritual way. It's very well defined. It's very, you're inside the person. Master G has taught many, many, many children, young people, and all that have, they call whatever, ADHD, all these things, they don't have them. When Greg can communicate with anyone in any traumatic experience, I've certainly trained myself in that. To be a healer, to be there completely, to listen to people, to be there with them and for them always, under any circumstance, and allow them to heal. And that's what I'm talking about in hearing people, and it's one of the areas we have to learn, is to listen to people and train yourself and it's never about you. Don't make a story up, you just let them guide them. No one ever, ever, ever listens to anyone. They're thinking about, oh, they said this, but I think that. If you quiet it down, you're a spiritual teacher, nothing else. You're not here to discuss the game or dinner, you're here to be a spiritual teacher, and that's it. There's no other reason for you to exist. None. So listen, guide the person, like acknowledge it, and acknowledge when there seems to be done, or they're okay with it, a little bored, and drop it. Thank you for telling me. and leave it there and never bring it up again. When it's about something emotional, psychological, not about your business, not about the game again, it's just be there for each other. That's the first rim of of your presence in teaching and being there for people and with people. And no matter what interrupts it or interferes with it, people are getting upset about it. Just, if you don't think about it, it won't be, because everything is in consciousness. I can get quiet and disappear infinitely, no matter what the circumstance. I say this as one of hundreds of millions of spiritual people, and we rarely have the opportunity to speak our piece. So I'm doing this on behalf of all of us. And you'll be doing it, and have been doing it for many lives, on behalf of all of us. A friend of mine, Gina, wrote a book called Many Mansions, which measure all the different souls we've inhabited, in other words, the lives we've had and so forth. And when you run into people like that, it's just a joy to be around people who truly are spiritual and really understand it. So don't get involved in the social political thing. You know, like someone like myself, I wrote a couple books about this, and they're masterpieces of understanding of wisdom. And I'm saying that because they've never been written, never been said, never been thought, never been experienced. And they're different ways of not relating to anything in this world, no matter what the circumstance. But it's right to understand everything in it. There's a reason for that. And there's a kind of a right and wrong in everything. But when you get really clear, you're here to heal. My buddy helps me with, when I do healings, I call them depossessions, because people with bad stuff in them generally have another sub-personality with them. You can have sub-personalities in your life from the time you did this kind of work and that kind of work, or relationships, or many lives it can be. But when people have something that's kind of stuck, and there's a weirdness or a strangeness or evil about them, then they'll generally have another sub-personality stuck in their presence somewhere. And if you're very quiet, like I say, listen to someone, excuse me, and they get clear in their case, then you can have them deal with this other presence behind them. And very quiet, you can ask them to ask the name of the person, where they're from 400 years ago in Rome or whatever, and they'll get it, and they need to be freed. In the same way that we have sub-personalities from the time we were traumatized, when maybe I was beat with a baseball bat once. And so I let go of that always for me, but you have to be very clear, very strong, very sedate, and be there for the other person. It's never about you. You're born to heal, to help, to teach, to inspire, to correct, to protect, to teach, to learn, to give, to share, to embrace. Fearlessly. And all you have to do is trust God, and God will be there. You will have this ocean of presence. And understanding from the beginning this world is an infinitesimal particle of sand and otherwise love-swept eternity. So if you get that, then you see that all the little problems in the world and all the solidness of it, it doesn't exist for you. So you can sit quietly, listen to someone, heal, teach, inspire, correct, redirect, whatever you want to do. And you'll do it with a delicacy and a kindness and a off-handedness, like you make it's lighter than air. Because you're never going to present that the world means anything to you. When you're working to heal people, when you're working in your business place, you have to adjust with your family, your children. You've got a mom and daughter here, my buddies, and they know what I'm saying. And a life involved in education and so forth. Be as God is. God is you. Accept that. believe that, know that. And it's delicate. Like I'm saying, my buddy has had the worst 2 weeks in his business here. Unimaginable. Everything wrong, and that on the electronic, the Comcast, and this, and it's all trying to get at him. And his cat woke him up in the morning, just looking him in his eyes, and the whole world disappeared. So we have to have that kind of closeness, that kind of integrity. My buddy Peter and Roz had 2 of those wolves, early 90s, whatever, within their home, and they were like, were their 97, 98% wolf, and just, and I never felt such love and such a family spirit ever in my life. And I've certainly felt it from different, call it tribes around the world. My buddies, Filipino, all of his family and friends come in, they're like one person. It's fun. It's good to be you. You're more important than any person that ever lived. You're here at the most trying time in human history to end the whole thing forever. Do you understand how important you are to God? You are a reservoir of spiritual presence. You will engage very powerful beings. In other words, on the dark side. And you won't give them an inch. You look Satan in the eye, and it will flee from you. It's a mistaken perception. It's just, I can't explain it clearly enough. You look in a microscope over anything forever, then all of a sudden there's one little particle that shouldn't be. It only appeared that one time for a millisecond, and somehow they caught it on, captured it, and they have a photo, but it never existed again. That's what this world is, in contrast to you. Your presence is God. You're wonderful, you're beautiful, you're kind, you're true, you're fearless. You're never at fault. You walk into the world, this world, that's the idea of the Garden of Eden, you're naked. No, it's the idea as soon as you think you're a person in a body, that's the mistake. That's what was meant. You are a transcendent reality. And that transcendent reality is all of reality. You'll be filled of this. You are an ocean. And we're just dispensing droplets of this to those who can hear. Or you can turn it on. Because Satan fears one righteous person more than 1,000 blind believers. In other words, they're not going to church and praying maybe this God and God's. No, you look at it quietly, have what you call a confront on it. Good morning, Satan. Now you won't say don't dress it, because it will disappear as soon as you give it a reality and try to be something else and keep it going. Or you can do what the mystics do. One time I remember talking about my friends in Tibet. I was there 50 more years ago, and there were certain lamas or monks that would have their family, or the other monks would put them in a little home, brick them in, cement it in, and they would feed food here and there, and some didn't, if you can believe that, because I experienced it, I know it. And this is important, that part of it. The part is that they're locked in there in a state of meditation. They're not crazy. When you feel this cosmic ocean of purity, of wonder, you'll know what it means. And they're there out of compassion for us. The only reason we are here now is not because of the armies and the navies or this or that or something in the seeds. It's because of those that have called the Tathagata, those who have traveled thus far. They have disappeared back into the light. And so they sit in quiet contemplation for your soul. And that's our strength. That's our power. It's more than a tank. It's more than a bully. It's more than a belief. It's more than faith. It just is, and you disappear back into the light. And then you are thus gone, the Tathagata. You're pure, you're good, you're true, all of your conditioning should drop from you forthwith. Do you understand your conditioning? That's why I say talk to people, have them download their case, listen, be there for someone. Everyone in this business, there are things I want to say to everyone, but they can't. I'll start to say to them, and because I'm so humble inside, I'm not going to inflict and yet I know if they listen to me quietly, just listen to what I'm saying, where I'm going, but it stopped because they'll say something back to what I'm saying. Well, if I do this, and I'll go there because I am so contrite inside, I'm never going to force myself on anyone. Now, when it's meant to be and there's a circumstance where it's crazy, I will insert myself, but until that moment, I won't, because it's rude. So let's stop being rude to one another and listen, be there, meditate, pray, care, involve ourselves, whatever our artistic inclinations are, and know that your profession is what you're here to make money for, but your passion should become your profession. It's something that you're here to do with such ardor, such vigor, that it becomes spiritual in calling. You see what I'm saying? When you care so much. And I'm not saying being successful in the world at all. I'm saying be successful in your heart. Your heart is God, is eternal, is more powerful than the sun. The sun is not there. If you can capture that thought and know that constellations aren't there, there might be people in other universes, that are material kind of, but as soon as you drop that thought, yes, there might be someone on Mars, who cares? That's part of the illusion. In India they called it the illusion, I forget the word for it, but that the whole world is an illusion. All the spiritual texts say that. If you read the Christian message right, there is a God of eternity, and that is an all-embracing God. But don't think of that in terms of he cares about this person or that country or this political. It just is. It's purer than daylight. It's almost as pure as you. You can write down the things that have bothered in your life, or whatever you want to do, or let them go, think about it, talk to God prayerfully, and realize that many times our own enemies sometimes are not bad people. In my case, they've mostly been true evil, because I know what I'm here for, and as soon as you know what you're here for, Greg certainly does, Rob certainly does, my friends here, Ingrid and Ingar, and my very special friend here, Jessica, who has given her life with the same humility that Ingar has here, that they understand something deeper than the everyday. So deep. They've been victimized, and yet they're so deep. I've been victimized, and I'm clear on reality. I never miss a beat. And I'm slammed daily some way that the dark force attacks me every day, and it's okay. Do you understand? Because it's not going to get anything out of me. I get to put it to sleep forever. Isn't that a nice thing to do? To know that with every fiber of your being, that this time around you get to fulfill all the divine promises to all the good people and souls in the world forever. You get to finish off the dark force without a shot being fired. It's in your contemplation, in your kindness, in your consideration for others. You are a remarkable being. You are a force to be contended with. You are the very presence of infinite, almighty, everlasting God, our Father, our friend, our love, our mother, our soul, ourselves. We're made of spirit, not flesh. You'll feel this, and it's endlessly more pure and wonderful to visualize, to see, than sunlight in the early morning. It's this presence And that's why being in love touches it. And watching Greg and Peter Mink and Andre and Rob and we got the mothers here that are just when you watch your child at play, that's when you know God. Don't look for God if you're looking for God, don't look for a solver of riddles. Look in your children's eyes at play. They haven't forgotten. It hasn't been beaten out of them yet. Protect them. Anything you want to know will come to you. There's nothing wrong with you. Everyone gets this guilt thing, this fear, this tragedy put on them, and then the white people that are successful in the world, you don't know what their case is. I do. There is no success in the world except dropping your relationship to it. That's the only success. It's a raison d'etre. That's our reason to be, is to remember that, as Alvin told Rob this morning. He just looked at him and it was gone. My buddy Peter Mink, my jiu-jitsu teacher, is like, who's more spiritual than I've ever known anyone, and yet he just gives himself 24 hours a day in a very physical, deeply spiritual dance of bringing people to great emotional and spiritual maturity, or rolling around the floor with him. It's a joy to see someone who hasn't forgotten where they come from and have somehow the stones, the ability to teach it in a very rigorous way. It's a big deal. You are a big deal. You are the holiness of the divine universe incarnate. It's you. It's not somewhere else. You don't have to go anywhere else. You just have to quietly allow this ocean of presence, which is you, to remind you of you, and that you came here of your own volition. You are a hero to God and eternity, and all your family, your grandmama, they all see you. They're aware of you. No one ever died. No one can die. So you'll help those who can be helped. You'll heal those who would be healed. And you'll free everyone. First of all, free your mind, and the rest will follow. Relax all your sensorial field, your meditation, whatever, however you want to do it. Or just think it for a moment, it's gone. Or read, I don't know, there's so many beautiful writings. Emily Dickinson I picked up the other day. It was like just something like that, where she says things so mystical they'd be called Zen koans. My buddy Dr. Sho is a great Zen master. He would talk that way. I remember he was with one of the monks, and we're up on a mountain building a center, and one of the monks looked at me and said, there was a guy, Gary, that was with us that was trying to be involved in Zen meditation, and he wasn't a good person. But I didn't think about it. We were all pure and true, but it was like that was there. And one of them, Reverend Shin, looked at me while we were making some rice, and he said, Robert, where is Gary? I said, he's not here. Meaning where we were, and he was right there, but he wouldn't feel insulted that it was like such a light-hearted thing like that. And that's the idea of the Zen koan. It's not like something serious and hitting you with a stick. It's something like that. It's not here. It's all gone with the softness of an evening breeze. Talk to God, God will talk to you. And when he does, it'll be as though you're the only person in the world. Because to God, you are the only person in the world. You're here at a great time. Don't be tempted by anything. Don't need dopamine. Just sit quietly and you'll have an ecstasy that's beyond anything you could smoke. You are eternity. You are greatness. You are your soul. You're an endless happiness and joy. And you're going to embrace those you love, and you're going to be able to read everyone and everything. And so when it's guided, everything will be guided. You don't have to do anything. I don't do anything online, social, I don't do nothing. Because I'm actually dealing with God. So what I'm born to do has to be done. So don't worry about this or that or setting it up, or some people want me to charge for whatever or sign or hang it. No, it happens all my life. It's just the right thing happens at the right time. The right thing will happen. You're involved with God directly, and you are God's presence in this world. You'll heal the nations. God bless your holy mission. I love it with all my heart, and all my soul, and all my mind, and all my spirit. And I live and die for you alone. Be free. Don't let anything hold you back anymore. You're walking back into the light. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you, Mr. Skoll.